I apologize for being late, as you guys could imagine. Real estate closings sometimes go long. Weird! No, that's crazy. But when it's your own fault, then you feel really stupid about it. I scanned 2 closing packages. I took my magical scanning cell phone and went boop, 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 and didn't realize it hadn't cleared the cache from the last one. So when we send it to the lender, they were like, what the hell is this? And I'm like, it's there. It's just 58 pages in, but it was there. Yeah, so that killed it. I lost an hour.
I guess we're getting a scanning machine.
Well, that's the stupid thing. You wouldn't think I would need to, but my fault. Anastasia just took it, sent it without looking at it.
Right.
So, oh well. Things happen.
Well, as we say.
Did we say that? Triggered. So, hi everybody, I'm George Veitengruber.
Hi, George.
Thank you for coming to my conference room.
We are friends on Facebook.
Yes, I am friends with so many people on Facebook, and I remember when I used to be able to tell you who all of those people are, and now I have no clue. I got a weird call 2 weeks ago from an attorney in North Jersey, and she said, well, were you at my seminar yesterday? And I'm like, what? And she's like, well, you sent me a friend request today, and so I looked you up and I decided to call you. And I assumed that it had to be because you were at my seminar yesterday. I'm like, I have no idea who you are. And I didn't send the request. I'm so sorry. I have a social media coordinator for those things. But I'm so glad that she called anyway, because she was the media relations person for the Volunteer Lawyers of New Jersey. And then a week later, I had a client that needed her. And this is how the weird things in your life happen, where keep every reference in your brain as possible, because sometimes there's going to be a moment where you're just like, I have a person for that now. And this is a lot what our business is. Our business becomes, what are the good tips and hacks that you've been able to keep in your brain, and who are the people that can help you execute on those? And I like to consider myself one of the kings of those tips and hacks when it comes to distressed property. I had a regular, plain Jane, really great credit score closing today. So unfortunately, when I tell real estate stories like that, everyone's like, yeah, okay. The good old days, right? Everything's messy, everything's chaotic, everything's a bidding war, everything's a nightmare. Rate locks, we're being super competitive and we're locking those things even though we might not have communicated it with the clients that we had to lock it. So now it's an urgency to close on the day or somebody's going to have to pay. And all of those things have made what felt like a normal-ish business, or the illusion of a normal-ish business, now made more chaotic than ever. But as I was on my way up to my very regular, very vanilla closing, the text I got from my office was, we have a new client coming in that has a sheriff's sale at 2 o'clock today. Yes, it's 2:07, 2:15 right now. And in my brain, I went, okay, I have a meeting, and then I have a closing, and then I have another meeting, and then I had you guys. Where am I going to fit this in? Why did this person wait till the last second is the great mystery of all mysteries. But in this case, I have an answer, and you guys are going to hear it and be like, Closing fell. The house was worth $800,000, and the sheriff's sale today was for $300,000. There's the gasp I wanted. You're welcome. Thank you so much. And why did the closing fall apart? Because the buyers freaked out and got cold feet because they thought that the house had too much hair on it. Had they been educated about what happened if they bought the house today, that the sheriff's sale wouldn't possibly have happened and there was no entanglement, they would have been fine. But somebody didn't educate them properly. Or, and we don't want to sound too pessimistic about people, or they never intended to go through with it, and they knew that they could go buy it at sheriff's sale today for $300,000 instead of pay $800,000 for it on the contract. I've never seen anybody try to put a contract together like that. So there's my nightmare, right? That was 9 a.m. and the guy has a sale at 2. What the hell do you do for that? Good news, we have a plan for that. And part of what you're in the room to figure out besides hearing fun, entertaining stories from me and the occasional blue language, is what does this mean for your business? Fun stories are great. They're self-gratifying for me. Great, he's a funny guy and blah, 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 blah. But that doesn't tell you anything that's going to help you make more money and or help your community. And that's what I hope that you get to walk away with, is those kind of things, because it's a great twofer, right? And you get funny stories and the occasional creative language from me. I try to encourage people not to be afraid of messy. I love messy. I thrive on messy. I'm a very chaotic driven person, and I jump straight into the face of danger with that stuff, because that's my dopamine. That is my adrenaline rush. So when we started out, Veitengruber Law is 13 years old now. I've been practicing law for just under 20, and I spent the first 5 years doing collections for another firm, cutting my teeth on going to court all the time and settling and negotiating. And my bosses had a lot of business, so I was doing bankruptcy, creditors' rights appearance. I was doing the sheriff's sales announcements. I had every piece of the messy collection market. And then the market collapsed, and they said, you make too much money, see ya. So I built this. And I immediately turned table and started protecting the very people that I used to chase after. So I was a bankruptcy attorney first. My job figured out how to get rid of people's debt to stabilize their budgets. And then 6 months into that, I realized that the clients that were in trouble with their credit cards might be in trouble with their mortgage. And this was 2010. So we just came into that ugly recession and all of the mortgage fraud and all of the mess. And now here I am doing loan modifications and trying to figure out creative ways to keep people in their houses, extend the time. And the more time we can buy people, the more opportunity we can create. The less time we have, the tighter the time gets, the worse it feels. And usually the less creative we can be about trying to give them the outcome. Because the outcome for one client, when I get asked, what's your success rate? My success rate is based on what was the client's desire and did I achieve it for them. I want to save my house. Under any circumstances, I have to save my house. If you're $1 million behind and you haven't paid in 17 years, I'm not sure if I can get you to save your house. By the way, I'm actually not far off on what was my record. Fun side stories. My client who hadn't paid a mortgage in 15 years and was still in the house, this happened last summer.
Wow, 15 years?
15 years, right?
I thought that was...
I had the record for 80 years.
How many?
8.
8? 8 was good. 15, but ready for the fun. So the first fun piece is that she walked in the office and said, I have a sheriff's sale next week, I need more time. After 15 years of not paying. Yes! And then you just ask the important questions, and she's like, this house is giving me everything I need. I'm good. I'm ready to sell. And you're like, okay. So your brain immediately goes 15 years, no payments. Okay, this is going to be a short sale, right?
It wasn't.
She walked away with a check in her hand at the closing because the mortgage she defaulted on in 2007 was only for about $80,000.
Oh my God.
And the house in Belmar might have done this over the last 15 years.
Yeah.
So she walked with a check after not paying a mortgage for 15 years. And that makes her one of my happiest, weirdest stories in the world of you're lucky you survived 15 years without losing your house to any of the foreclosure mechanisms.
So all the interest, the interest rates and all that was forgiven, and all the
She had to pay the interest, she had to pay the penalties, she had to pay the escrows, but the house market outpaced it, and the way she avoided it is a very complicated story, and it's basically the magical unicorn. It's the lottery ticket. But in 07, the crisis just started, right? And in 2011, the federal government stepped in and hired a special master and said, we're going to sue all these lenders for being bad actors. So New Jersey shut down foreclosure for a full year. There were no foreclosures in New Jersey for that year. And then Sandy happened, and they gave Monmouth County
Yes.
and Ocean County about 4 months or 5 months.
Yeah.
And then the biggest foreclosure firm in the state collapsed and filed bankruptcy themselves because of all the moratorium. And then the Sandy, they had outstanding bills to their title insurance companies, their survey companies, to the tune of a couple $1 million. So they had, at the time they collapsed, I think they were controlling somewhere in the ballpark of 30,000 cases. So they had 30,000 orphan cases. That was
Zucker
Goldberg, and Ackerman.
Oh,
really?
so
Yeah.
they
I know I don't see that
Yes.
name anymore. but I know-
Bankruptcy.
That's
Yeah.
why.
Yeah,
That's
I
what I
remember.
see.
Yes, they were. Okay.
So after their collapse, then the world kind of got normal for a while, and this woman filed a series of bankruptcies that kept buying her more time. And then she walked into my office, and it had been a few years since her last bankruptcy. And then this weird thing called COVID happened that bought her even more time.
What is it? 2 years? Isn't it stopping in May or something?
What, COVID?
No,
I hope.
the moratorium.
No, it's over.
It's over.
It's already over.
Oh, it's already over.
Yeah, that was
What-
last year.
What's with the magical?
There's something going on in May
May.
though. There's
Yeah.
something in May, 11th of May, there's something.
We have another thing?
Biden
Yeah,
is
there's
not
something going on in May.
signing.
Yeah.
I thought it was no more extensions that they're saying, no more assistance for COVID.
Oh, it could be no
Oh,
more
the
assistance.
Something on the 11th, no. I don't
So
know what-
Irma, they're going to finally. Well, it's weird that they cut Irma assistance because I don't know how much Irma money they've given yet.
Well, I thought they were just waiting until that runs out, but I know that supposedly they said Biden is giving, not Biden, whatever, the
Yeah.
feds are no more extensions on the
putting in-
forbearances and
yeah.
stuff that they're.
So those forbearances, right?
Mhm.
By the way, we'll go in a million tangents, and I'll find my way back eventually. The trick with the forbearances is that COVID happens, and some people are out of work, and some companies are shut down, and some people get sick and die, and the lenders give forbearances all over the place. And I have a letter. Client walked the letter in 2 weeks ago, and the letter from their company was, "We're all in this together, and it's like hitting pause. And when you're back to work and everything is stable, just press the button, and we'll get you right back on track." That's what the letter said. It's on their letterhead, and it says, "We're all in this together. It's a tough fight." And wouldn't you know it, 2 years later, they wouldn't give them a streamline modification. They said, "Do you have a check for $110,000? And you're like, "I don't have a fucking check for $110,000. You told me we're all in it together." Well, we changed our mind. So these
That's
become
what
the
I'm
crisis
saying, coming.
points.
Yeah.
But doesn't she have a letterhead saying that this is what it is? It's not
She-
legal though?
The question becomes, they're not being sued yet.
Okay.
Mhm.
But when they do get sued and I have to go into court with a counterclaim, can I use this "we're all in this together" argument?
Yeah.
Mm.
Can you?
I don't know. I'm gonna find out.
Oh,
But really, I will be the one that has to go find out
Hmm.
because they promised that they would fix it for these people,
Mhm.
Work with them. Yeah.
and sometimes they didn't, sometimes they didn't. We have a case going on right now where, coming out of the streamline, they were given the okay, here's the trial. Oh, but I'm sorry. The whole time that this has been going on, it's now been 6 months since your forbearance has been over. So we foreclosed on you. So sorry. And while this foreclosure is going on, we're still trying to work with you to get it fixed. And they accepted trial payments, but all they did was delay the sheriff's sale. They didn't cancel the sheriff's sale, and the client actually lost their house.
Wow.
A forbearance, you don't know if it's going to be taxed in the beginning or in the end.
You didn't. And you're like, "But isn't that unfair?" And you're just like, "Well, yeah, it's incredibly unfair. But we were making things up as we went along during COVID."
Mhm.
So all of this chaos,
Mhm.
this is the chaos I live it with on a normal basis
But you-
because I love it.
Yeah, I was going to say you love it.
This is
I
this-
can see it.
this is it, right? And just the background of this office is that I have 8 employees, and we do bankruptcy, we do foreclosure defense, we do real estate. We also do wills, mostly for our real estate clients, but we do these things really, really well. And last year we had 410 clients, new clients on the year. We're good for 200 to 250 real estate closings a year. Pre-COVID, it was 170 bankruptcies. For the last couple of years, there was very little need for bankruptcy. There was very little need for foreclosure defense. the moratorium, the anti-eviction moratorium ended in January of 2022, the foreclosures actually were ramped up and allowed to start in September of 2021.
So you're seeing a lot of sheriff sales?
Now we are. They didn't do anything last year, and that was curious.
It was closed. You couldn't even go inside the building or
Nope.
anything.
So
But
that
I follow the sheriff police a lot because I do bank loans too.
Yep.
Yeah, I want to know what the bank is for, a loans and a Fannie Mae.
Yes.
They give me the listings,
Well, even the site for
and
foreclosure
but
site.
you still see a lot of bankruptcy.
you do, and you're going to see more of it.
Mm-hmm.
Is what it comes down to. But let me explain how bankruptcy is actually going to be a tool that helps you. Right? Sheriff sales in Monmouth and Ocean County were very, very quiet all last year, even though the gloves were off. The lenders instructed the sheriff, we know that we can go forward. We don't want to go forward, so after we take our 2 adjournments, just cancel the sale. And you're like, but why? Stockholders. They didn't want the uncertainty. They weren't ready for the instability. So they actually took last year and planned because they wanted to avoid. Think about this. Properties that you have not taken back yet are just on your distressed list, non-performing loans.
Right.
Properties that you take back, you now have to maintain.
Oh.
You had to take the loss. You have to spend even more money. Not much is different between these two. It's just the actual appearance and difference. And that actual appearance where you have to acknowledge to your stockholders that we now have 10,000 more non-performing loans in New Jersey might destabilize your properties.
Aren't they pivoting though and like renting them out?
Mhm.
You know?
Yeah.
I was going to say, what, in 2018, for U.S. Bank, I think I personally, I had about 70 rentals of their properties. Those people are still in there because now we're kind of going back to them a little bit. But I'm just saying, it says U.S. Bank care of those management companies.
They're now in the rental business. And I'll tell you what.
Scary thing.
But is that changing, or are they?
No,
That's
actually, what's crazy about it is now you have hedge funds that are just snapping up communities, and what they've figured out is that the rental market is more robust than the ownership market.
Yes.
So holding them and renting in perpetuity, post Sandy, right? We're dealing with a decade now. Post Sandy, rental properties have not dropped in price anywhere. It's more expensive to rent than to own. But again, now you have to go back and educate the consumer of how do I fix your credit so you can become a homeowner rather than pay this $2,800 a month. Let me show you that at $1,900 a month, you own this thing and you actually get something back out of it if you sell it.
And the government's helping you with a $15,000 grant.
Education, education, education.
Yes.
Amazing.
Yes.
Yeah.
So, back to the poor person who had a sheriff sale at 2:00 today, right? Lender, they go to the lender, they explain what happens, and here is a very hopefully known trick, and if not now you'll understand it. If the houses have equity and they've actually made some effort towards doing something about fixing the mortgage foreclosure, judge will give them 28 days in a heartbeat. In this case, the plaintiff gave it to him, but you can walk in to a judge and say, I have a contract and the lender's owed $300,000 and I'm going to get $800,000 for this. And the judge is going to say, all right, you have 30 days, go fix it. If you don't fix it in the 30 days, problems. But let's say that you don't have the prepared homeowner that went to the realtor already. Instead, you get a panicked call from somebody just fishing out for information and somehow you get them to reveal that they have a sheriff sale on Monday. What do? You know?
Try to get a contract.
Try to get a contract is a good start.
Get him a lawyer.
Get a lawyer is great.
So can you do anything without a contract?
Yep.
Oh, okay.
Get him a lawyer. 28 days. Everybody knows that an adjournment is 28 days. Everybody has two statutory adjournments. The thing that makes it saddest for me is when I meet somebody that didn't take them and lost their house. And that happens a lot.
Really?
Because people, they don't know.
People don't know. They didn't read what came to them. They put their head in the sand. They gave up. And then I shake them. violently shake them and say, wake up, it's not too late. I will tell you, the easiest marketing that my office does is old school postcards.
Mm-hmm.
And I've had this conversation with a lot of people. I don't send letters because letters can be ignored. Letters don't have to be opened. Postcards in your face.
Mm-hmm.
Postcard basically says, I can help. I am a free consultation. Do not lose your house. And people are like, should I call this guy?
Mm-hmm.
And that's the problem because I can't reach them all. So the ones that I do reach that actually are aware of, oh, this is fixable, I have it sorted out. Like usually within the initial call, I can tell them what their plan A, their plan B, their plan C is so that they know, hey, I want to save this house. Okay, you're 70,000 behind and I'll give you 5 years to pay back the 70 plus you have to make your mortgage payments again. Well, I can't do that. Okay, then I'm going to give you 12 months to sell it, but you have to pay your mortgage payments again. Well, I can't do that. Okay, you don't have to pay your mortgage, but you're going to sell this house in the next 90 days or you're going to run out of time again. If I told you that you have somebody that's up against a sheriff's sale on Monday and they've taken their adjournments, I'm not kidding. This was the exact quote that came from a broker that we used to work with. Guys, don't bother trying to fish for these guys that are up against sheriff's sales.
Mm-hmm.
It's too late. It's not too late. It's never too late. Do you want to know when it's too late? It's too late 11 days after the sheriff's sale.
Mm-hmm.
Not 10 days after the sheriff's sale, 11.
So up to 10 days you could go retrieve it, you could redeem your house.
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay, so we know about 10 days for redemption, right? Do we know that if you file a bankruptcy within the 10-day redemption period, you get an extra 60?
Yeah.
I wasn't aware of
I
that.
wasn't aware of that either.
So, this is a true story. Sheriff's sales start back in September, bankruptcy. Sheriff's sales start back in September of 2021, right? And I have an office in Metuchen, that's where I just came out of. And I have a meeting with a client, and she says, this man knocked on my door last night and scared the shit out of my 16-year-old son. He said, I own this house now, get out. And I'm like, oh. And I was like, when was the sheriff's sale? And she said, Wednesday. It's now Friday. I'm like, do you want to know what his mistake was? And she's like, no, tell me. And I was like, he didn't wait the 10 days. And they're so anxious to be so accommodating.
Yes.
I own this now.
No,
Dummies.
you don't.
Wait 10 days, right? So I picked up the phone. I said, first things first. Do you have $400,000? Can anybody loan you $400,000? No. Are you prepared to sell? I can't hold on to this house anymore. It has bad memories. Anyway, what's the story? Divorce, mess, all the bloodshed, restraining orders, the things that make your life a nightmare. And sometimes it's not that. Sometimes it's I lost my spouse to cancer. I lost my job. My son is an addict. Pick the story, right? But people understand that it might be too far gone. But if it's too far gone, it still doesn't mean that they can't actually leave under their own control and their own dignity. So for that woman, I picked up the phone and I called the realtor I work with in Metuchen and I said, Deb, I have 67 days to sell a house. And I said, I need to close it. Are you good? And she's like, I'll have pictures done by Thursday. I'll have the listing up by Friday. I'll have open house on the weekend. The following Wednesday, she came back to me with 5 contracts over ask. And she said, and this is what I really appreciate about her, she said, my client is the second best contract. Don't take my client. These people are better. You should take it. She turned away. She knew she had half of it, but she could have had the double bubble on it. And she said, don't. You should go with them. But if something falls through with them, then you're going to pick my guy. So, great. I'm under contract. And they lived happily ever after, right?
Probably not.
So, you guys won't hurt my feelings when I ask this. What's your opinion of attorneys? Real estate attorneys?
I think they serve a very
Neutral.
I'm an attorney though, because I just used an attorney to close on my house.
Yeah.
And I felt confident that if something went wrong, that person's in my corner.
But
That's what I
you're
feel.
you're talking
Correct.
about from a buyer's perspective.
Okay.
Yep, and I love that.
So that's what
Thank
I'm saying.
you.
He just
I'm gonna
closed
give him a
on
dollar.
something.
But
But I'm saying my question is like, because you know what, I actually have worked with the same attorney for years.
Yeah.
But I always think that I'm like, why are we? It seems like with attorneys that we're adversaries.
and why?
And that's what I'm saying. Why? I'm asking why.
Right.
I'm not saying with
Right.
someone that
I
I know
don't
and
like
whatever.
it because sometimes some attorneys, I'm doing this for 18 years, I use a lot of different attorneys, but they don't work hard in the client side.
Correct.
Yeah,
I
I
don't
keep,
think so.
I give
It's a
you-
perspective.
Yeah.
By the way, I think you're both right, and let me explain it. Right? Would it be fair to think that the general opinion of an attorney in a real estate deal is that we're deal killers? We screw up your easy deals.
That's happened.
Mhm.
A lot. I mean, that has happened.
Yeah.
To be honest.
But here,
oh no, it's not only the attorney, the home inspectors too.
Yeah, but I mean that's their job in a way. But
Yeah.
but for an attorney, I don't know. To me, that relationship is really very important because.
insanely
But
important.
so the attorney will always come and say, Joan, what do you think about this, or what do you want? What's your?
Correct.
They'll do that, and that to me is what makes it work. But
Yep.
generally, it's like they have a chip on their shoulder about. To me, agents. That's what I feel a lot from people that I don't know, maybe.
And
I don't
and
know
it's a
why.
little bit of that, right?
Because we're looking more on that.
We see
back
you
and
saying
forth.
that's what's that's
And stay out.
I stopped a relationship with the attorney. I used to do deals with him for 10 years because I said to him, I'm going to be very honest with you. You didn't fight, you didn't work hard for, he represent the buyer side.
Yeah.
And if the listing agent, I had a contract, you are under alternative review. The listing agent came to take my client, my buyer, and push to her side. And when I figured out what's going on, I said first is ethical.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Second, I said to the attorney, I said, you have to do something. This is not,
Yeah.
because I'm going to the board.
Yeah.
Because this is not ethical things to do. He did nothing, and there's a story. I lost the buyer.
Yeah.
She bought the house with the listing agent,
Oh my gosh.
and I said to him, you know the day one? Now, never more you see one client.
Correct.
Never more.
Correct.
I wouldn't either.
But did you go to the ethics board about
Yeah,
it?
you go to the ethics
I
board,
talked
but
to the board, yes.
right
And they,
at the most a fine.
but they what they did? Nothing
There's no
else.
enforcement protocol when it
Wasn't
comes
unless
to what
you
the
had
board
a
can do,
contract with that buyer.
right? But absolutely, the attorney had a obligation to protect the client and to protect you,
Yeah.
because you're an idiot if you're not protecting your teammates.
Mm-hmm.
The way that law should be done is that we are all on the same team.
Mm-hmm.
And not only are we on the same team, but the opposite side are also in the same boat with us. And none of us get what we want until we find our way to the closing table. So if everyone's being fair, what's the password? If everyone's being fair and you're keeping the lines of communication open, then ultimately everyone gets what they want. Do we have things that fall apart during attorney review? Sure. Do they fall apart during inspections? Do we find the underground tank we didn't know about? Is there a sudden death, a divorce, a something that forces a change of heart and things fall apart? Or, God forbid, we get title back and we find out there are 4 million liens and we don't know how to clear it. By the way, bankruptcy. Thank you. We clear it. I'll tell you those fun magic trick stories too, because all of these become, if we understand and can diagnose the problem, we have to ask, is this a killer? Or is there just something else we're going to have to do to figure it out? But attorneys as deal killers is huge. I get it. I've never been accused of being a deal killer. I'm here to advocate for my client, but I'm here to over communicate too. And the way that we do real estate, it's very, very simple. Every realtor that I work with has my cell phone number. I don't want your clients to have my cell phone number. I love my clients, I do. Put that on camera. But I don't want my clients calling me at 2 o'clock in the morning. But I sure want you calling me at 7 o'clock on a Friday night and saying, hey, we have a problem with the contract. Because is it better for you to wonder and worry until 9 a.m. when attorney hours start again on Monday, or to get your problem answered at 7 and be off the phone by 7:05? Or do you want to worry for 2.5 days? It's crap. So the relationship is, I don't have a chip on my shoulder with realtors. I want to educate and over-educate them as to what they want to know, and at the same time make sure that they don't have to learn to be an attorney. I spent 3 years going to school extra just to put ESQ after my name, and it's not your job to do it. Your job is to identify problems where you go, you can't be pro se on this, man. You can't represent yourself on this closing. You need help. And
But a lot of realtors, they like to play like a attorney.
well, of course they do, and sometimes that's okay. And the further south I go, the more I see it.
Yeah.
But the real question becomes, how much information do we have to lay out there in order to get us to the closing table? So now back to my messy post-closing issue, right? 5 contracts. 1 contract better than the agent that had it listed. And I put in the letter, here's a standard vanilla letter from the buyer. And I respond to the letter and I say, all approved, this is subject to court approval. Court approval? What the hell's that? And they're like, can you explain the clause? And I'm like, well, yeah, sure. The client's in bankruptcy and I need bankruptcy court approval before I can sell. And they're like, bankruptcy? Why are they in bankruptcy? You're selling us a house. And we're like, well, there was a sheriff's sale. And they're like, you should have disclosed all of that. Why didn't I disclose it? Two things. Why didn't I disclose it?
I think it's very private.
It's not required under your MLS list rules to say bankruptcy or sheriff's sale. So
you don't have to.
Well, short sale.
Short sale, but this wasn't a short sale. This was
Right.
profit.
Right.
So you're not required to say either of those things. That's the first one. If we had, who shows up for the open house?
Nobody.
Oh,
Vultures.
everybody. I was gonna say everybody that wants it.
Vultures that want to lowball it.
Yeah.
I had 5 over asks. So this wasn't a question of the quality of the property or the desirability of the neighborhood. But if I chill my own market by saying, hey, property subject to a bankruptcy or foreclosure, there was a sheriff's sale, nobody's showing.
Like,
because
you do see people with those
it's
kind of
scary.
disclaimers
Yeah,
on their
Yeah.
listings,
I
but
believe that too.
I know being that transparent is not.
it's a little too transparent,
Yeah.
right?
Mhm.
But here's the
I don't
thing.
know.
Because they said, hey, we're really nervous.
Mhm.
We're not sure if we want to continue. We're at attorney review. This is the beginning, and I have 4 backups, so it's okay if they say no.
Mm-hmm.
But they said, would you mind talking to our attorney? We're not even in attorney review for real. Like, we're just sitting at the beginning. And I'm like, yeah, whatever you need me to do. So I call the attorney, and this is where the universe smiles on us sometimes. The attorney's like, hey, George. And I'm like, who did you marry that I went to high school with? She's like, Alex. I'm like, how the hell's Alex? She's like, he's great. Tell me about this cockamamie deal you just got me into.
Mm-hmm.
And I explained to her, this is what's important about the hats that I wear. Bankruptcy court approval on a sale of a property, it's a 28-day process. It's not a big deal. And it's almost a rubber stamp. As long as you put the right language, in this case, it was a for-profit sale, everybody's going to get satisfied. There weren't any extra judgments or liens, but there's a way to deal with that in bankruptcy court too. But if I didn't do this, they would have lost the opportunity for the equity based on the sheriff's sale. And I said, the attorney that is handling the real estate deal is the same attorney that's handling the bankruptcy. So if I'm doing the motions that need to be approved, I didn't add an extra chef to my kitchen. I just speak multiple languages of law. And that meant that as soon as the contract came in, and as soon as we were out of attorney review, my client had already put their bankruptcy petition in, and now all I had to do was file a motion to sell the house and an application to retain the professionals. Application to retain professionals means you guys get paid. And I will tell you, you guys never get dinged in that. There's no discounts. There's no, oh, it's bankruptcy now, so let me strong arm you. You're getting your full commission. They're not messing with that. All I did was buy extra time and be transparent about the contractual relationship that was needed for the professional to sell the house. So after I got through that little piece, they did live happily ever after. And my client walked out with $30,000 in her pocket that she otherwise wouldn't have gotten. And the house got sold, and she got 2 extra months to actually not have to throw everything in garbage bags and figure out how to move on the fly.
And her credit was not touched because of the foreclosure.
The foreclosure already killed her credit.
Okay.
Mhm.
And what happens when you file a bankruptcy is, people get this wrong all the time. Oh my God, I filed bankruptcy.
Mhm.
Oh my God, I don't want to file bankruptcy. I don't want to file bankruptcy. I filed bankruptcy. Credit stops crashing when you file bankruptcy because there's no more negative reporting. But until you actually file, oh, you're late on your credit cards, your credit going down. Oh, you haven't paid your mortgage in 12 months, 12 years, your credit's going down. Oh, your car got repoed, your credit's going down. But the second you file bankruptcy, they're not allowed to report anymore. So your credit stays neutral. And then my job becomes how to repair the credit of people that are neutral. Anybody that files bankruptcy, if you file a Chapter 13, and in the 13 you do a sale, so you sell the house and pay back the mortgage company 100 cents on the dollar, first of all, you technically qualify 1 day after discharge for another mortgage. But the reality is, because you were behind, significantly behind, you have to wait 12 months. But if I told you from a Chapter 13 you could buy another house in a year, would you believe me? What if I told you in a Chapter 7, where you liquidate everything and don't pay anyone, that you could buy a house in 2 years? Would you believe me? FHA guidelines. So if you can rehab somebody fast enough, if this was just a speed bump in their life that was unavoidable, this was the bloody divorce that the ex had all the credit cards in her name and she needed to get out from under this, but she has an okay job with great potential. What I sell is time and hope. I can get you out of this mess and I can let you start your life back over.
In 2 years.
In 2 years.
George, let me ask you this. I mean, what's different to me from when the crash happened in 07, 08 or whatever, when that was like a bad time for a lot of people and people had to do short sales or they were getting, foreclosures. Now, the difference, I mean, it appears to be because people have equity, that there's not a lot of people having to do something. Are you still seeing people having to do bankruptcy? And
Because here's the differences, right? All of the variables are confusing. We've had 2+ years where it just did this, right? The inventory was depleted, so the property prices went like this. And when we had rates at 2.5, people didn't give a damn what they were paying for a house. When rates got to 6, they started getting nervous, and now we've flattened out and dropped a little, but we haven't had the big R word. There's no recession yet.
Whose definition? That's what I want.
By the way, I agree with you,
Yeah.
right? But from a realtor perspective, they're just like, as long as there's limited inventory, we're not seeing a crash. My expectation for this year is that you're not going to see a crash, because all of those people that did not get the house in the 30 contracts that went in and only one magical person gets accepted, those people are still out there. So as you see houses go through sheriff sales and you see people nervous that the market is starting to turn, so I better get out now, they have dance partners. The market is going to crash when we run out of dance partners.
Well, also, isn't it like the mortgage companies are so diligent about the mortgage that they're giving out? That was part of the reason of the crash with the mortgages,
I love all the movies. It's great popcorn for me talking about how irresponsible all those people were. And when your bartender owns 5 houses, maybe they were irresponsible. It's not as easy to be irresponsible these days. But make no mistake, anybody can be turned irresponsible once, right? I paid $100,000 over ask on this house, and I waived appraisal. That's irresponsible, right? Under anybody's definition, if I have a 2.5% interest rate and I'm 100,000 over, I go, well, I expect to be here for the next 20 years because I love the school systems and my kids are going to be here. You had a reason to be irresponsible, and it was something in your head where you're just like, I can take this risk. But somebody that loses a job they didn't intend to lose a job. You can fall apart on a 2.5 mortgage just as much as you can on a 6.5. So
But they had to like get the cash difference. They had to pay the difference of like what their responsibility was about, because the mortgage was still you know what I mean? There's still the value was
You
still
have to do an appraisal
covered.
on it, so they have to pay up
No,
above
he's
price of the
saying
appraisal.
they passed on the appraisal, but they know what they're asking.
they did.
And-
So they dumped a lot of cash into their
Yeah, they
property.
dumped
But
it.
when the market dips again, well, now their house might be underwater in value. So now the risk is, can I get out from under this? And that's how I turn them back into a short sale. That's the problem. And then when the rates changed, and now the rates got to 6.5, but the housing prices hadn't changed, now you're asking people to stretch their budget. And they went to FHA now, so 3.5 down. 3.5 on an $800,000 house is $28,000. That's all they had to put down as their down payment. How quickly can an $800,000 house turn into a $750,000? If your mortgage is $770,000 and your house just dropped by 6%,
Yeah.
you're underwater.
You are quickly. I didn't.
But
think
what
of that.
happened back then was that you had multiple houses. So you dominoed your way to, oh fuck, I can't solve this.
That's
So
true.
it's a lot harder to be irresponsible. But make no mistake, it's still going to happen because banks went back to, not a lot of banks, but there are no doc loans out there. There are non-QM loans out there. There are not quite 105% that they used to give out. Do you remember 105% loans? Don't worry, we'll give you a first for 95 and we'll give you a second for 10%. What do you mean? That was the crisis.
Yeah,
Missed
the
it.
negative am.
Right, and negative AM loans, right? Oh good, I'm paying $300 a month for my house. This is amazing. Wait, why do I owe $10 billion on a house worth 500 and it can't happen anymore. So what we still have though are those adjustments in price, and the people that took modifications after they were behind,
Right.
forbearance agreement, you haven't paid for 2 years and they tack on 120 to your loan. Are you underwater now?
Yes.
Right. So if I
I
don't
didn't
like
feel like that, yeah.
working with Wells Fargo anymore, I can't go down the street and get a new loan because I don't have any equity in my property. So the question becomes, who gets fed up and walks away from the house at that point? Because it will happen.
Right.
So when we look at these sheriff sale lists, some of these people are very, very able to be helped. Other people, they might not look on the surface like they can. And it's just a function of what is the headache and what is the outcome and what obstacles are sitting in the way. We have one that just got bankruptcy court approval, that when they came to me, it was, almost last December. And they said, hey, this deal died at the table because we knew about the condo association lien, we knew about the divorce attorney lien, we knew about the IRS lien,
Wow.
but we didn't know about the other divorce attorney's lien, and we didn't know about the Department of Justice lien.
Oh my God.
So this woman had a mortgage plus a condo plus the IRS plus all of these on the other ones, and they were all secured. And look, I've done this for a long time, so I looked at it and I said, this isn't so bad. Like, the IRS,
Yeah, I was gonna say, wow, you're very positive. It's all the cursing you do, right?
it is, that's what it is. The IRS is prone to taking deals. So as long as your client's not walking away with any money, the IRS, they'll take a haircut. So we started negotiating with the IRS, and they came back and said, we're in third position, and your closing statement shows that you're going to pay the people in full in the fourth and fifth position ahead of us.
Ooh.
No, thank you. Go to hell. And I was like, but you're the IRS. You're supposed to just tell my client, walk away with nothing, and you'll take your check. They were still going to get $70,000. So what's the hardship? Why won't you say yes? And they said, because go ask those people to take zero. You ever asked a divorce attorney to take $0? I did. Didn't work. But you know what did work? Put it in bankruptcy. And then I went to the court and I said, hey, judge, this is the last asset of a very brutal divorce, and my client is going to lose it no matter what. But if she can pay 3 of her creditors off and be done, I think that's a better result for everybody. And I have a buyer. And that's what we did. And then the person in 4th position, she was not very happy that she was going to get $0. So she kicked, screamed, made allegations, all the fun things to make it difficult for my client to close.
Wow.
And the trustee looked at it and said, none of this stops the fact that there's no equity in his home and your client is walking with, she gets, by the way, this was a weird magic trick. She was going to walk away with 0 before I filed bankruptcy, $0. But in bankruptcy, she has a $27,000 exemption. And when I went into bankruptcy, I said, these liens impair her exemption. They impair her ability to take something that the bankruptcy court bestows on her.
Wow.
And they said yes. So now she gets $27,000 at the closing that otherwise was going to go to the IRS. She still has other things, like I can't get her out from under the IRS lien. I can't discharge that. So after her bankruptcy is over, we still have to deal with that. But now she could sell the house and she doesn't have to worry about this creditor, this one chasing her. They're gone.
Nice.
Fun. And realtors got paid.
There's a real good
And that's, but no, that's really the
This
thing,
is the
right?
best part.
That's the best part of the whole
Yeah.
story.
It really is. My job is to
We
figure
should
out,
start with that.
I know, that's the fairy tale ending.
right? How do I get you paid? How do I get it so you can identify fringe and weird and be like, I should run away from this, but George likes this shit. And let me have a conversation with them, because I'm never afraid of that conversation.
And it's free.
It's free. They walk in here, they tell me their story, they decide if they need to freak out a bit, cry a bit. I'm good with all of that if we can get to the point of a solution. So my very first short sale, the deputy mayor of my town was a realtor, and she said, hey, I saw this blog post you just did about short sales. Can you talk to my clients? I'm like, yeah, sure. She's like, they've walked away from contracts twice already. They keep getting cold feet. I was like, all right, kind of a standard thing, right? Oh my God, the permanence of I'm going to lose my home, it can be a huge thing. So I sit down with the clients, we have a conversation, and she had been assaulted at work, and that created some of the hardship, and there was a pending case and all the mess, right? And I crunched through the numbers and I said, you want to save the house? And she's like, excuse me? And I'm like, you guys make great money. Do you want to do a loan mod instead? She's like, nobody ever asked us that before. Can we think about it? Sure. Call me Monday. So, finish the meeting, talk to my realtor, and I say, I think I'm going to save the house. I think they're just going to do a mod. She's like, all right, well, it's still good. At the end of the day, bad news, she didn't get paid. But good news, it takes a property that otherwise was probably going to find its way abandoned, and now it's bringing down everybody else's prices, and now somebody's empowered to save it, right? And then they called me Monday and they said, all right, we're ready to sign the contract now. I was like, wait, what? And they're like, no, we're ready to sell. And I'm like, why? And she's like, nobody ever asked this before. And now we have the choice instead of being told what to do. People just want control back. And what happens is when you first fall behind on a mortgage payment, you're like, oh, okay, I'm going to be able to catch up next month.
Yeah.
And, 2 months behind. Damn it. You know what? It's okay. We get a bonus next month. And then you're 3 months behind. And then you're 3 years behind. And you feel so hopeless about that. And you feel so broken by that. That when somebody offers you there's a solution, you want to take it. It's the first time you got to make an affirmative, controlling decision in years. So in that case, they did the short sale, and it closed, and the realtors got paid, and we all lived happily ever after, right? But that's really what it becomes, is my job is I'm your teammate that gives them informed consent to I'm going forward with this because it makes absolute sense, rather than being told they have to. And when you have a sheriff's sale date, you're like, you have to do something. Watch me do nothing. I'm going to duck my head in the ground. All right, well, now you have to leave because somebody else just left a note on your door that said they own it instead. Or, hey, I'm not trying to be intrusive on your life, but I noticed your name is on the sale list this week and you haven't taken any of your adjournments. Let me help. I can't make that call, by the way. You guys can.
Which most people haven't taken it. Don't take the.
They don't take their
I thought they
damn
take their
insurance.
insurance.
So you're saying that
Because
the law,
I
you
was-
can't make
I
that
mean,
call
I
to them?
checked.
Yeah, I'm not
we
allowed
as
to.
real estate people could do it?
Your ethics and my ethics are different
Mm.
by
Oh,
the
okay.
guidelines.
But the biggest problem I saw in this, I did so many short sales
Yeah.
in my life, and I do a lot of bank loans, still now doing Fannie Mae.
Yep.
And they don't believe that this is going to happen. They don't
I know.
believe it.
Yeah, there was
I
a lot.
saw people here in Wall Township in the Gracie Street.
Mm-hmm.
The guy put a gun in front of me. When the sheriff already foreclosed the house,
Yeah, too late.
after 10 days,
Mhm.
when you
Yeah.
know by the law we have to advise the homeowner, the bank foreclosed the house. It started because Fannie Mae give money to people,
Yes.
Mhm.
a lot of money by the way,
Yes.
not cheap. And the guy, when I saw the guy, I was like,
So why he came after you with a gun?
yes, and
Because you
door.
went to tell him.
Thank God I was not alone. I'm when I go places like that, this was not Fannie Mae was a shell point
Yep.
house.
Yes.
And I said, man, I'm not. This is done.
It's too late. You're
But I
past
think
your
if I
options.
was alone and I'm a woman, like a small
Oh
person,
no.
You
Then it
can-
could have been a thing.
yeah.
That's
And
why no.
when I do things like that, I bring somebody, a man, whatever, like about
Yes.
Yeah.
with me.
The cash
Because
for
they
keys.
don't believe
Often
it.
the cash for keys. Sometimes we used to work for one company that was doing all of those
Oh my
outreaches
gosh.
to see who was at the house.
Yeah.
And, knock on the
Just
door.
to get the
and
status
Yeah.
of the building
some would
or
be
house.
cooperative, but every now and then you would get somebody that was
That-
not pull
So
a gun,
aggressive,
but
very
Yep.
aggressive. Like,
He
Right.
was living in the house in the
they're
basement.
mad.
After he left the house, house was empty. I went to the house. My ex-husband was with me to keep the house. And when I opened, I said, "This smell is so strange here." And I said, "It's a big house." When I opened the door, go to the basement. Oh Lord, the basement looked like a pool. We could swim inside to the basement.
Yeah.
And the guy was living there with all this water inside to the basement. And I don't know how he was living there.
Oh my gosh.
That
So
becomes the
Well,
nightmares.
the-
Yeah.
that
So now you're
wasn't
dealing with
mold.
mold and you're dealing with sewage backup and you're dealing with all structural nightmares.
Yeah.
And that becomes the thing, right? This was a big issue during the last foreclosure crisis, was that people, they were walking away from properties, and we didn't have zombie regulations at the time that let you just go back in and take it. So you had these houses falling apart in these beautiful neighborhoods, or you had places where the people were staying in it, but they knew they were going to lose it, so they were just letting the houses fall apart around them. That destroys the property value for the rest of your clients.
Everybody, yeah.
So the question becomes, when you reach out to one of these people that's in a horrible world of distress, whether they sell the house or not, you're doing a service for the rest of your community. And what I've found over the years is the clients that you can rescue from the deepest spot of despair, most of them become your biggest advocates. And if you want your credibility known in your neighborhood and you're the superhero that gets people out of jams, it's great working with these people, no matter how frustrating sometimes it is working with these people. Because the thing that got them in trouble in the first place usually becomes the thing that gets them in trouble the next time. Hey, we're doing a short sale. I need docs from you. I need docs from you. Hey, the lender's going to close this if I don't get docs from you. By the way, if we haven't told you that part yet, don't be afraid of short sales, because we do that in-house. You get off
Thank God, because before I did everything myself.
Right. Realtors, and I'll say it both ways, right? The realtor that loves that and loves the interaction with the bank,
No, I
I'll let them do whatever they want. But if you don't want that crap, his name is Matt, he's right there. His boss is Anastasia, who that used to be her job. So when Anastasia came here 6 years ago, her thankless job was talking to the lenders every day to try to work on short sales. So
And so, George, you guys are still able to get the commission to stay in place, and
Yeah.
you get paid outside of that.
usually we get paid on it.
Hmm.
Yeah. So we have one rule that's a little different, and it's my skin in the game rule is what it's really called. When a client hands you a flaming bag of dog shit and says, "You're so lucky that I'm giving you this messy real estate deal. Good luck," and then they feel like, "Well, I've already done the favor of giving you the property." You go, "No, but I need your tax returns, your bank statements, your hardship letter. I need all of this stuff," where they're not going to help at all. Don't waste my time. We started charging for short sales, and we only charge $750. You'll know that's not nearly what an attorney charges for a real closing, but I charge $750 on purpose because as soon as a client has skin in the game, as soon as they actually had to reach into their pocket to do something, they're much more responsive. And they want your accountability. If I gave you money, you're going to actually fix this for me. Damn straight I am. But if you didn't give me money, you probably weren't going to help me. So that's my variation. It's turned off 1 or 2% of the realtors I talk to, and I don't care because I know there's a reason behind it, and it works really, really well. Skin in the game is important. Getting everybody in the boat, knowing that we're here to save each other, super important. Time's it.
3:08.
That's me riffing. You guys want to talk about anything? Got questions?
Yeah, how can we get business?
Yeah, yeah.
Great question. Ready?
Yeah, that's what-
No,
that
that's an
was a
awesome
teaser
question.
in the beginning, right?
There was a teaser in the beginning, right? So I'm not kidding when I tell you my world is really based on 3 different versions of marketing, but postcards are the best, easiest part to do this. And the difference between what I can do and you can do is communication. I have to send postcards. I can't pick up the phone. If you work with your title company, they'll scrape those lists and get you phone numbers that I can't get to. And I couldn't make the call if I wanted to.
I used to knock on the door years ago, but right now you cannot do
It's
that.
a little nerve-wracking. Yeah. You don't want to do that. But you can pick up the phone or you can send an email. So, first, njlistpendants.org. $30 a month. And that gives me access to every single pre-foreclosure house in New Jersey. Pick your criteria, pick the dates, pick the county, pick the city, and you get a list spit out. Right now,
$30 per year?
$30 a month,
It's a month.
right? And sheriff sale lists, they're free.
Free, yeah.
They're free.
Yeah.
I don't have one. What's-
Is it the fancy Veitengruber
Oh,
law pen?
no, it's not good. Here we go.
No, it's.
Okay.
I have fancy Veitengruber law pens. How many people we got here?
Also, if you
Yeah.
had a
We
client
love
that's not speaking
freebies.
English, I'm here.
Okay. You know what?
I think it's in
yeah.
there.
They are. In that cute little cellophane.
You got it.
I know a lot of this,
Well-
they don't know,
Correct.
at first they don't know, they have sometimes, I had this experience, they have the house, everything, but they don't know nothing about it, the process.
Right.
The culture problem
Correct.
is
I know, it's
big,
fancy.
and
This
I
is-
can communicate the way
I know.
they can understand under the culture.
Yes. Right. And what we get, a lot of the cultural confusion becomes the version of family and extended family is, oh, well, my cousin is on this loan with me because I was on the loan for his cousin before him and blah, blah. So people that wind up in the foreclosure actions are completely muddled mess.
But we could just ask our title person just to give us a list, right?
Yes.
And they will.
Yes.
And they will.
As Kathy
with that.
over hears me talking
But
about
that's-
And he's on his way, you can
Right.
ask him.
But that's actually the point. That gives me a great point of entry of, have you talked to your title person about this relationship? Because guess what? They benefit too. They are thrilled to help you with this because on 2 fronts, look at this swag.
I get a swag.
On 2 fronts, we're dealing with first, now we have contact information for them. Second, they can run a quick report on judgments for you and find out what else is going to screw up your closing. Because I'm not kidding when I say,
Thank you.
here's the judgment, here's the stuff, here's the mortgage company. No big deal, we can pay that mortgage company. Hey, did you know you had a second? I don't have a second. Do you know you took out a second in 2008 well, that's expired now. Statute of limitations is 6 years. That doesn't work for second mortgages, guys. But everybody thinks it does. So when your title company can show you what you're really up against, not at the very beginning, not the rough shot of this is a list, but once you have somebody that's really on board, the easy questions you ask a new client in distress is, well, I know you're behind on the mortgage, but what else? Is there a condo association? Are you paying them?
Yeah.
Was there ever a second mortgage? Do you have any judgments out there? Behind on
Equity
your
loan.
credit cards?
I had the problem on one time with the equity loan.
Is there a divorce? Is there a death? Is this an inherited house? Tell me all of the fun.
Just found out.
Because all of those things could get to the point where you've started it and then find out that a month from now, it's not going to get anywhere unless you're proactive about figuring out the title part earlier. But I'm not kidding. When I'm told that a deal is dead, I look and I say, well, is bankruptcy the answer to revive the dead deal? And most people wouldn't think about that. Most people say, oh, well. And then I go, but bankruptcy. And they go, ew, what a horrible word. And then I explain what happens if you do bankruptcy. And they go, no, that's not as bad as I thought. You're going to walk away with money in your pocket instead? Maybe I should look at bankruptcy.
So it's either 7 or 13.
Does it, is there any difference if it's a, reverse mortgage loan?
If there's equity in a property, it doesn't.
Okay. No,
If there's no equity, the bad news on a reverse mortgage that's a short is the lender will probably play ball and let you do a short. They won't pay me. So then somebody has to figure out how to pay the attorney. It's been fun and awkward at the closing table where all of a sudden PNC is like, hey, thanks for all this work for the last 6 months, but you get 0. And you're like, but without me, you wouldn't even be this far.
You wouldn't even be talking.
And you're like, yeah, but that's okay. Guidelines say, F you, you're not getting paid.
Yeah.
Mean.
And solar panels.
Oh my
I hate solar panels.
He could raise
So
his
does
hand.
title.
I could give you still
Title
about
doesn't
that.
like
Give me a solar panel story.
So can I tell?
Yes.
So
We have a visitor.
Hi. Oh my God.
Happy birthday to you.
sorry I'm late, everybody. I apologize. I just wanted to make sure I came in.
You're great. Solar panels, go.
So
I
I
will
just
just
closed
walk
a house with solar panel. The house was for foreclosure.
Yeah.
They've sent over the UTC saying that everything was cleared. There's
Yeah.
no lien on the title whatsoever. But now the company doesn't want to allow me to get my Rex from wherever.
Uh-huh. They're not giving you the Rex. Are they taking the panels off for you?
They're not taking the panel out. It's still in the house.
So they're making, but they're not making you pay. Was there a...
No,
yeah?
there's no contract with it. Nothing.
All right. So they're squatting on your property. Are you getting any benefit at all?
No benefit. That's of my knowledge. Nothing at all.
Well, fuck them. Take
So-
the panels.
But-
There's no
So
contract.
it's not,
No, but what I'm saying though, so how do I go
yeah.
about getting?
So you know who the company is, right?
Yes.
That's a letter of hello. Either I'm entitled to my SREX or get your equipment off of my property. It can't be both,
Okay.
right? It's one or the other. I'm happy to keep your panels provided that they're safe on my roof and you have it inspected. But you're going to give me the benefit, which is the SREC. If you're not going to give me the benefit, this is formal notice, certified and regular, that if you don't have your panels off in 30 days, I'll have them removed.
Mm-hmm.
They might say fuck off and have them removed. Because I have a client right now who's like, so I'm inheriting this solar contract and they just put the panels in 3 years ago, but now the roof needs to be done. And the solar contract says, we will remove those panels and place them back for you at $150 a panel. And he's like, why would they have put it on a roof that was about to fail? And he's like, it's a secondary business
they
for
would
them.
be, yeah, they're being greedy.
Secondary business.
Yeah.
Greedy.
Yeah, I was about to ask you about what happens with the solar panels on a bad roof.
On a bad roof.
On a bad roof.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm not a fan of solar
No.
panels on a bad
Bad
roof.
roof,
A good roof.
It's not a
Really?
thing.
Right.
It's not a thing. Yeah.
I put an array in your
I
backyard.
think if you live, somebody's
It
going
depends.
to live in a farm,
Yes.
something like that. But oh no,
Yeah.
I think and the view is a nightmare.
Yes. Solar panels can be complicated. It's a polite way
Wow.
of saying it.
I
Yeah. But absolutely farm those lists and don't be afraid of people like that are sitting in this muddy mess and saying, oh, well, they're too far gone. Because the next thing you're going to do when one of these people actually picks up the phone and speaks to you is you go, I have a free consultation for you. The attorney I work with is happy to talk to you about what all your options are.
Mm-hmm.
And you guys will all walk out of here. Is it on that list in the folder? Or am I going to give it to them right now?
On your
My cell
number.
phone?
Yeah,
I think
send me, send me.
Good.
The cell number?
Yep.
It should be.
An email
Cell
address.
for
Yes, it
business
is.
partners only, yeah.
Yep.
Yes, it is.
That's my cell.
Okay.
If you call it right now, it will ring. The point is that if I'm not sitting in with a client or doing a thing, I'm going to answer you. If I am in one of those, I'll send you a text back. I understand and respect your time as much as you respect mine. This isn't a 9-to-5 job, right? You have a problem on a Friday or a Saturday and you can't get your regular attorney, you will get me. Because that's the point when this changed for me. When I started giving access to my realtors and saying, I respect your time as much as you respect mine, there is no chip on his shoulder. My partners like me. And that becomes the point, is that I will give the value of what's in my brain if it helps you guys get closer to a closing. You know what I mean?
So George, you're sending out postcards to those lists?
Did you want to get
Wanna
those
make it-
postcards? I'm going to make you walk again.
That's okay.
Yeah. So
Mine
here,
is-
let's
mine
talk
is
about
fine.
time, right?
Mhm.
NJ-less pendants. If somebody just got a lien put on, that's a notice of, hey, there's impending litigation.
Mhm.
That's here.
Yes.
Early. We have
Mhm.
all the time in the world. This process at the beginning of the foreclosure action was 6 years, or if you heard the story at the beginning, 15 for one lucky woman, right?
Mhm.
Sold her house over the summer and she hadn't paid a mortgage in 15 years and still walked with a check. That was fun. But if we've got a sheriff's sale might be a month, but they've got 2 adjournments, so they might be on this list for the next 3 months. Or it might be, in the case of Ocean County, 7 days from now. We send out lists to Ocean County on Tuesday, they have sales. On Tuesday night, the sales for the next week go up. Wednesday morning, the postcards go out. So by the time somebody gets a postcard from me about an Ocean sale, it's usually Saturday or Monday, and they have 1 day to make a decision. Oh my God, do I reach out to the attorney? So we are geared for that. We are the crash test dummies of, if somebody calls with an emergency, every department here knows this is a press the red button, they are on George's calendar the next available minute, because I need this much time. 37 minutes. We had one where the person walked in here after a judge said no. They went down to Freehold, they begged for an adjournment. The judge said no. They came to my office, they took the credit counseling course, and they filed their bankruptcy 10 minutes after sales started. But we had given the sheriff a heads up that we were filing it, so they pushed it as the last sale of the day.
Mhm.
So we beat the deadline. If I can beat the deadline by a minute, I have a year to fix a problem. Back to my bankruptcy statement. If I fix a bankruptcy a minute after the sale, I only have 70 days. If I file a bankruptcy the minute before the sale, you have 12 months to sell their house. If you can't sell their house in 12 months, we got to talk about a different profession, right? That's what it comes down to. 12 months. The trustee will give us 12 months to sell that house. No questions asked. This one doesn't get you paid, but it's still fun nonetheless. One of the other reasons that people get behind in these things, besides somebody getting sick, somebody dying, a family member like finding themselves in jail, losing a job, all those, is divorce. Divorce is our other bloody battlefield, right? So I had a case this year where, so far I've had 2 cases. Spiteful ex syndrome. The ex isn't paying their alimony, they're not paying their child support, and therefore the client's about to lose the house. But they can't afford the bankruptcy either. That's never great for me. But they can't go into a Chapter 13 even though they have a house with a ton of equity. So I had a client where right up against the sheriff's sale. There's nothing we can really do. I looked at it and I said, we're going to file a Chapter 7. And the difference on a 7 and a 13 is back to control. In a 13, I get to pick the realtors. I'm the professional at the table. I get to show the contract. In a 7, the trustee does. So I handed it to the trustee and I said, asset case, ex-husband not paying, child support order out there for 6 figures, or over $110,000 of unpaid child support, tons of equity in the property. And I told the client, I'm like, well, here's the bad news. You're going to lose the house. They're going to sell it. It's going to be a few months. I said, you're entitled to your $27,000. But what they do is it's a straight split. Both names were on the house, right? So here's her side. She gets her $27,000. The rest of the surplus has to pay her creditors. And if there's money left over, she gets that too. Here's what goes to his side. Trustee can't touch any of this, except he has a child support order out there for $110,000. What happens when we have a child support order on a real estate deal? They got to get paid, right?
Gotta get paid.
First.
So she got $110,000 from her ex-husband's side because the trustee couldn't touch it, and the trustee couldn't mess with it after she got it because child support is a protected asset. So she went from destitute ex-wife with a husband trying to bleed her out of a house to $130,000 in her pocket and the ability to start over and be done with him.
Now, George, why do they do 7 or 13?
Yeah.
It
So
has to do with how much assets they have?
Liquid.
asset. So it's about equity and assets. By the way, in a 7, they don't want you to be penniless. They just want you to fall under the exemption guidelines. 50 for a couple, it's 55,000. For an individual, it's 27 and change, plus another $4,000 in vehicle value, up to $1 million in 401k. So I had a teacher who fancied herself as a flipper and realized very quickly she wasn't. So she was 300,000 behind in credit cards that she did to put all the improvements on the house, and then lost her shirt on the house. But she had 600,000 in her retirement account. So when I filed bankruptcy, I stripped 300,000 of unsecured, but I didn't have to touch her retirement because it's protected. So 7 is about you're underneath the financial threshold, your profit to expense ratio is upside down, and you don't have any equity above and beyond the exemptions. If you do, the trustee has the right to seize any of those assets, sell them, give you your exemption, and then do the rest with it, which is what I did in those cases. Is I went with a 7 asset and I said, go ahead, sell the house. My client still gets the benefit, much better than a sheriff's sale going forward, right?
In that deal that you just mentioned earlier about did she also have to pay alimony out of that money as well?
Alimony is not
protected asset.
protected. So if there was a judgment for the alimony, it's still on his side of the equation. And here's the more granular response to it. Trustee filed this motion to allow the sale and to allow the trustee to sign the documents on behalf of the non-cooperating spouse. He didn't appear, he didn't do anything, so the trustee now has access to sign off on all of the closing docs for the guy who wouldn't cooperate. The final order said that his share was subject to being held in escrow until he got further order from the court. So then I called the divorce attorney and I said, make an application either in family law or bankruptcy, your choice, and ask for all the money because you've got the child support order out there. P.S. If you can get another order in place between now and then that demands your attorney's fees for having to make this order or the past due alimony, have at it, because every penny of that guy's money was sitting in escrow because of his bad action. I'm doing the second one of those right now. And all it becomes is my new message is I want to go meet as many divorce attorneys as possible because this is a fun magic trick. It really is. And not many attorneys talking to other attorneys is hit and miss. You get into your specialty, you figure it out. If you don't spend time going to all the other people, they don't know how you can help them do their job better too. But for divorce attorneys, I've got it. I have their jam. Because they actually get paid out of it. Shock, you haven't paid your divorce attorney and they owe $30,000 and they won't pick up your call. But if you meet the attorney that says, I'm going to get you your $30,000 and I'm going to give the client their money,
Mhm.
you become very, very interesting to people very quickly.
New best friend.
I'm a new best friend.
So
But-
George, you're not strictly a bankruptcy attorney, are you? I mean, you do real estate.
Yeah, thank you. So 3 departments.
Mm-hmm.
I have a bankruptcy silo, a foreclosure silo, and a real estate silo. We did 220 real estate closings last year. I'm a beast, right? Last year I think we did close to 100 bankruptcies, but this year we'll do about 170. Foreclosure, ask Ivy. This year her goal is 60, coming off of
Keep my goal low.
flat. She might hit 100. I have the capacity in this office with my staff that we're going to have about 500 to 550 clients this year.
So when you say foreclosure, you mean short sales or saving houses or?
Yeah,
Maybe all of them.
loan mods,
Oh,
defenses, right?
Uh-huh.
Foreclosure defense that's your list pendants list. So
Mhm.
foreclosure defense gets filed. If you ignore a foreclosure defense complaint, it can go through the system in 4 months now.
Mm-hmm.
It used to be 4 years, right? That was the
Mm-hmm.
first crisis. But then every year we watched, it went from 4 years to 2 years to a year and a half. It got down to 9 months, where you were like, even if you file an answer, you got 9 to 12 months to really sort this
So
out.
why are you saying it went down to 4 months now? Just because they.
If I ignore it, remember
Mhm.
my ostrich, my
Yeah.
poor homeowner that
Yeah.
has their head in the sand?
Yeah.
You just got served.
Mhm.
Somebody showed up at your door and
Mhm.
said, hey, you're not paying your mortgage, and if you don't pay up, you're going to lose your house.
Mhm.
And what happens then? If they call me, they get 9 to 12 months.
Mhm.
If they don't call me and they keep their head in the sand and they hide it and they put it under the mattress and they won't tell their spouse about it, all of a sudden the next thing that gets posted on their door,
Foreclosure.
sale date.
Yeah.
So it happens that quickly? Because I know it used to
I
take
think the
forever.
minimum is.
It used to take forever, and then it
$9.99.
shrunk in 7 days from complaint to sale date.
Wow.
And that house had tons of equity. And I went in front of a judge and I said, I got a $300,000 check that my client gets to walk with if you let this contract go forward. And this was pre-crisis. This was 6-7 years ago.
Mhm.
And the judge said, I'm going to make you put mortgage payments in escrow. And the lender's like, and he's like, no, you don't have to accept them. I get that. But I want proof that your client is actually able to make this work while you're demanding that these guys wait 90 extra days for you to sell it. My client put the money in escrow. Judge gave them more time. The sale went through. At the end of that sale, they got their 300 and they got the 15 back that they put in escrow. The final date to redeem, that's it. There is no sheriff sale. It's done. So imagine a house that you have free and clear. Your husband died 13 years ago. You don't know what to do. His car is still in the driveway. The tree stump that fell over from a tree that's as big as this table is still sitting next to your driveway, and that's been there for 5 or 6 years. And you go, but I'm getting a reverse mortgage. That realtor sent her over to me, and I looked it up, and she was 10 days away from losing her house.
Wow.
10 days. They were already at motion for final judgment. They already gave her the redemption date, and she just blindly said, well, the reverse mortgage is going to take care of it. So I jumped in and they gave me 90 days. And they said, oh, you're working on a reverse mortgage? Okay, we'll give you time. That was incredibly reasonable. They didn't have to do that. I thought I was going to have to file bankruptcy. Well, then I got in touch with the reverse mortgage company and they said, she has a list pendants against her. She has an insurance claim. There's stuff that has to be repaired in this house before we can give her this. No, she's not getting a reverse mortgage.
Oh, ouch.
$40,000 on a $500,000 house. That's all she needed. We got her a hard money loan. Hard money allowed her to stop it. And now she's doing a reverse mortgage. Thank you, Green Legal Title, because you're the title company on this. That's Rich McDermott, who I met at your happy hour.
That's right, Rich.
Right?
Wow.
That's right.
So I'm sitting at your happy hour and I'm telling Rich this story. He's like, I can totally help her. And this week the construction's being finished because they really were FHA requirements that had to fix all of that. But the house isn't in foreclosure. There's no list pendants. Flying colors.
Wow.
Rich is a good guy. He knows this stuff.
Yeah. So the point is, the more things you can store in your brain and go, I've heard this before. I've heard them all. And that's the fun part about it, because I know the good people to work with on it. I know the answers to give, and I'm here to be that resource.
And by the way, we're seeing a lot of tax
Tax is coming all over the place.
sales too. So
Ugh.
well, keep your eyes open. There's so many opportunities to make more money. Bottom line, it really is.
And that's really it. What I like about this job is that I can make money and I can help people.
Mhm.
So I get to do it both ways. I get
I'd
to
like
solve
to understand
stressful.
better about how to buy properties in a tax sale.
No,
I was gonna say.
they listen. They're dirty.
Mhm.
They're legal for now. By the way, it's for
I
now.
think in New Jersey is not big.
They're working
but
on-
in other states and other states.
They're working on legislation to make sure that the windfalls don't happen. Because here I have a sewer lien for $5,000. Somehow I've gotten away with not paying my water and sewer for the last 3 years. And you buy it, and now you have to keep paying it for 2 years, and then you can foreclose on it. I bid $50,000 to buy 5,000 worth of paper. Do you know where the extra 45,000 went? Right into the tax office. They keep the money and they use it towards other benefits because that's how the law is written. There's legislation right now that's trying to say, hey, that's an unfair windfall and you can't do that anymore, which would at least get some of the money to the homeowner. But the difference between a sheriff's sale and a tax sale is my little old lady just loses her house for 40 grand on a $500,000 house. When that house sells eventually, she doesn't get a cut of the 460. If you're at a sheriff's sale and the property gets bid up and there's 100,000 of surplus, the homeowner gets it. The lien holders might get it, but the homeowner, if there's no other liens, at least they eventually get their check. It takes 9 months.
Wow.
It's a long, long process. I've got an attorney for that too.
Wow.
Questions, thoughts, anything, observations?
So you get a lot of response from I would assume.
Oh yeah.
So old school, right? When you sit there and go,
No,
come on, man, a
So you-
postcard.
We have the funny part about the postcard
Let me see it.
is that it wasn't
Anymore.
supposed to be that large.
Oh really?
It was an accident, and it was the best accident that ever happened. Because it actually sticks out. Yeah.
Yeah, people
Can
know.
I ask for a copy? Can you give a copy?
I'll give.
Sure,
I have
sure.
plenty.
Do you want me to give her
Yeah, yeah.
Send
We'll give
copies
all
to
of
this?
take
Yeah.
them.
I'll give you both. I'll give you one of each.
Yeah.
For, yeah.
We have 3 different postcards. You're looking at 2 of them. I don't think we have any
We
of the
don't
list
have the-
pendants in the
no.
office because
Yeah, the link pendants are very good to send
Yeah.
to people.
So
so
But
my
it's the
list
same
pendants
idea.
my list pendants is in a bright yellow. These are in white and black. And the white and the black ones go to the same people. It's just a month apart.
I
So
was
the,
about to ask you. I know we're talking about the window.
Yeah.
Like when people are thinking they have from the very beginning they're not going to do anything. They have time, whatever. So do you start sending out then? Because
Yeah.
what I've noticed is people are a little bit resentful that you know it,
uh-huh.
and then they're like, they're doing something.
I get a call once every
Yeah, they
6
get
months.
arrogant.
Once every 6 months, I get a call complaining about it.
Mm-hmm.
And I say, listen, I'm very sorry that you feel that way. Your neighbors already know. If you Google your property, it already says pre-foreclosure or foreclosure on it.
Oh, it's in the zero
Right?
everywhere.
It's
Yeah.
everywhere. And I'm
It's a
like, we
public
don't
information.
we don't control that public
Mhm.
Right.
information. All I'm doing is presenting you with an opportunity to correct your issue. You're already working with an attorney? Great. It says it on the first line. If you're working with another attorney, please disregard this. My language was vetted by the Office of Attorney Ethics. They approved what I wrote because if I sent it out there and didn't, and they filed a complaint, I'd get smacked on the hand. So I made sure I did everything that I'm required to do. And people's biggest objection to that postcard is everybody knows. And you're just like, the postman's not looking at that shit. He's just putting it in boxes.
You
Leave him
already know.
alone. The fact that now your kids know,
He knew when he saw the
or your spouse knows,
I mean,
that
He knows
sometimes
more
people
than
hide.
I
that's not
Right.
on me.
Actually,
But the
that's
point
how you become a
becomes
divorce specialist.
because they didn't have to open the damn envelope.
Uh-huh.
If they have to open an envelope, it's going in the garbage can.
Right.
I know how it works, but that's big, obnoxious, and makes the message really clear. Stop, you still have choices. And then it says free consultation. Jesus. If I can't get you to answer at that point, it's on you. I at least tried. When we started these, so 3 casinos go down in Atlantic City. right? We lose 3 casinos over one summer. And I say, holy shit, Atlantic City is about to become an epicenter. So I sent out postcards, first time. And I got no response. None. And Ivy was just like, well, let's pick another town. Not a county, town. So then we did a small list to Jackson. Atlantic City, 0. Jackson, first list, hit. And a woman called me and said, hey, this is my blah, 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 blah. What's the difference between Atlantic City and Jackson at that point? Atlantic City, no hope. They didn't know how they were going to fix it. Everybody lost their job. If you were in the casinos, you lost your job. If you were a support to the casinos, you lost your job. Everything imploded, and nobody had an idea of what you were going to do to recover. But this is like 2005, 2015, 2014, and the woman in Jackson that had fallen behind, it was a speed bump, but she didn't know how to get out of it. So all of a sudden what I realized is, don't be afraid of going after any area. Go look and evaluate. I don't spend a lot of time pushing stuff in Atlantic City anymore. I don't push stuff down in Camden anymore. But I'm okay with Trenton. Trenton's actually kind of trying to make its way back. So is Newark somehow. The point becomes, when you see these fringy spots for real estate, I don't want to deal with Newark either, but I've done it. But I've done it. And that becomes the point, is that they're starting to figure their way out of it. And places that have 0 hope.
Okay, no.
Yeah.
There's a nice return on that.
You're just picking out where.
Yeah. No, but that's
Honestly,
it. You can
just do it. Just do it.
and so there's a lot of ways to do it, right? And the easiest way is, I've given you the direct names of, here it is. Pick the county, pick the town, pick 5 towns, and pick within the last 30 days, right? Because you want to hit them early. You want to hit them as quickly as you can. I sit here and I do it every 30 days, and I know other attorneys are doing it even faster than that. And it's just an efficiency model for me. Sometimes I'm like, okay, maybe I should go to every 2 weeks, because maybe I'm missing people because I'm not doing it fast enough, right? But if you sit there and you go, once a week, I'm going to print the list and I'm going to slap on some labels and be done. How much time did that take? For me, it's how much time did I take it away from my staff to do it? Not a big deal. When I send out a list on list pendants, my printer does it directly for me and charges me $90. I'd rather just pay him the $90 because they go out. So it's a function of your frequency of sending them out is absolutely based on where your bandwidth is. And if you know that you're not going to have the discipline to do it, then hire somebody to do it. That's what I did.
Expensive to do.
Yep.
So worth it when you get that one call.
But then I'm not kidding, the same time that you now have this list and you're like, hey, these are the people I'm sending it out to. You send it to this fine gentleman here. He punches it through some magical software, and here's your emails and your phone numbers to go with it. So now you've sent it by mail, you've sent it by text, you've sent it by email. We all respond to different mediums. Old school postcards, I get a good response rate. I'm not allowed to send the other ways. But I guarantee when you send the other ways, you'll actually get some responses. Trying.
So you do all in one, like all at once? You don't like stagger them through them, or have you ever considered staggering them?
So we
through the month?
stagger.
Oh, you do.
We stagger the sheriff sales,
Okay.
but usually it's all in once on the list pendants. I shoot out one list. I cover 9 counties, and it's usually between 1,000 and 2,000 a month that go out. But I was ready all last year, and the world just wasn't ready.
Yeah. Yeah.
But January, we had 44 new clients in January.
Wow.
44 clients in a month is pretty good on anybody's standard, right?
Yeah.
I could have done better.
Yeah. I mean, maybe you could have.
But did you?
We'll let you know next January.
Yeah. You did mention a very important point before, and it's a point where I think it's my Achilles heel at the moment. Cultural issue based on language. There is such a untapped issue going on with Spanish-speaking community because they they won't talk about this and they don't trust us to talk about this. I don't speak the language, so why the hell would they do it? I know that's a problem. So it becomes a function of you absolutely become an integral source of this, of any one of you find a client that's in this trouble, you're invited and welcome with, as long as they're okay with it, on the call, in the room. I don't care what you have to do to hold their hand. My interest is helping and protecting them. And if there's a language barrier, I don't want to be the idiot that said, no, don't be here. That's stupid. I need somebody that they can trust to interpret in a way that's completely different, because I don't get bogged down in legalese.
Also, I said to her, I do loan sign too. And I used to do for some companies also, they use me because I speak Portuguese and Spanish, and then I can explain inside to the culture what's going on.
Yeah, because the documents make no sense whatsoever.
Yeah.
I know that. We've tried to translate, it was horrible.
Oh, no, I'll talk to you about that later, after
Okay.
the translation part.
Also, they have like a more than the Spanish community, like they have to understand, like if you're going to show the house today, put it this way. Okay, later they said, oh, can I go back there and tell, because I need to bring my mother, my dog, my la la la, you know?
Right.
And during the pandemic, I had some problem because, you know, you have to control people going inside the house. But anyway, I tried to say, okay, other day I was showing a house in Neptune. Anyway, we were not in a pandemic situation. Okay, the father and the mother is going first. Then went to the kids. You know, you have to accommodate the situation, because I know they're never going to make a decision if the entire
Without everybody
family
in there.
is not involved.
Right.
Absolutely true.
Yeah. And there's people sometimes they don't understand how it works.
Yep.
You know? Yeah, this is a very important part that you understand the culture.
The other part that comes with that culture, especially when we're dealing with first generation in this country, well, it is my obligation. I took it out. I know it. I have to pay it. Or they just take everything. No, you have protection. Let us try to protect you. Don't just go down with the ship because you think that you have to based on honor. Use the law. Protect you. I had great Portuguese couple that I got them the loan mod and capitalized like 60 or 70,000 of arrears so they could save the house. And then they came back to me and they said, well, we want to set up a consolidation with our credit card companies. And I looked at it and I was just like, all right, it was $90,000 in credit cards. Interest rate was 25%. And I said, do you know how much you're paying every year just in interest? And they're like, well, I was like, it's almost $2,000 a month. Imagine what you could do with $2,000 a month back in your pocket. I just modified their mortgage. They had no equity in the property. They came to me to do a consolidation so they could just keep paying. And when I showed them how many years it was going to take them to get out from under it, it took me 3 meetings before they agreed to file the bankruptcy. But they filed the bankruptcy. They got rid of all of that debt. So that's $2,000 a month back in their pocket. And then I got them a modification on the second mortgage. That set them up for life, right? But culturally, they thought that they were cheating, that they were stealing from fucking Amex or Discover or Citibank. Do we care about stealing from these companies that are charging us at 30% interest?
Yeah.
We don't. But culturally, they do. So I delicately danced that line to explain what rights they actually have.
Yeah.
You seem as you have a passion doing this though.
I love
like
this.
that. I like that.
I do. It's fun puzzles, right? But what you asked before is actually one of the trickiest spots. People hear all these distress stories and they forget, oh, you do real estate?
Yeah.
I do. I do real estate really, really well. It's just that I learned on dumpster fires. And because I learned on dumpster fires, all they hear is distress, 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 distress. I assure you, 220 deals a year, we know how to do the regular too. We know how to do the regular
We
really
had
well.
that closing last year in March. We represented the seller was a veteran in Tintle Falls. Yeah, I represent the buyer. Was a cash deal.
That
Yeah,
was
I did with Anastasia a lot of
Yep.
emails. Yeah.
Anastasia's awesome.
Yeah.
And again, you have to, if you're dealing with this stuff, you have to care about the people and care about the cause. Every one of these people would jump in front of a speeding train for a client because we all know that they're coming from a really difficult spot. I don't talk down to people. I don't judge people. I don't make them feel shitty about their situation. They already felt shitty before they met me. My job is to try to build them up and show them that there's hope. So that's why it's like, yeah, I get off on the distress side of this business, but I'm not foolish enough to say, oh no, please keep sending your regular deals to whoever you want. No, man, if you're gonna hand me the messy, please hand me the clean too. It's almost like that's the reward for doing a good job for a good person is a vanilla deal every once in a while is just lovely.
Wow. Nice.
Yeah.
It's like a vacation.
Yeah. And thank you for coming to my TED Talk.
No,
Go ahead.
I just want to introduce Steve,
Yes.
Steve
Oh.
Green.
Mr. Green.
Yeah.
I didn't even see
Steve
that.
is the owner of Green Label Title, and he didn't have the opportunity to meet everybody yet. So, do you think we could go around the room and say your name and where you're from?
Like a networking group. Yes.
You have
Give
30
you
seconds.
30 seconds, right?
Yeah.
30 seconds.
Here, I'll
What's
be
your
the
pitch?
pitch.
My name is Michael Spencer and I'm with
Goldstone.
I'm a newbie, so.
That's okay.
I'm Julia Quiroz. I'm from Sutton Realty in Avon by the Sea.
Okay, wonderful.
My name's Melanie Cole. I'm with Goldstone in Homedale.
Okay, wonderful.
John Duzak, I'm with Goldstone. We were previously with Exit for years.
Okay.
And I started off in REO in
Yes.
06 with an REO broker. That's all she did for 40 years. So that's kind of why I
It's a hard
learned
path.
to do that. Yeah.
Where are you
You've
from?
met before, right?
Yeah, Salt and Cedar
Right now,
Properties,
it's
broker
just,
owner.
Good to see you.
No, no, years ago I
Patricia
worked
Grace,
around
I'm
the
with
eggs
Exit.
sometimes.
Okay.
Oh,
Out of West Palm
I
Beach,
should know that.
and I've
There you
done
go.
a few short sales, but looks like we're gonna be
Julia.
doing more.
I'm Ivy. I work with George, and I used to work with Patricia
Yeah.
as a counsel.
Sandwich in between.
Yeah,
I-
yeah,
That's
and
the
I used to
present.
work
Years
with,
ago,
yeah,
before
I used to
Bob
work with them,
Shebania, yes,
and I used to work with her.
I
Yeah.
used to work with
Many
when
hats.
they are better homes.
Many
Oh,
hats.
that's
Very
right.
good.
Yeah, Larry Becky too.
Okay.
Yep.
My job was
VRI.
because of
Yeah.
So you have no choice.
I want her.
Yeah, that's who I worked with, was Larry Becky. And then Bob Shavanian when he.
Oh, yeah?
Oh, let me see if I have more. I have more one, that's all.
But wait, there's more. Oh, I can take a picture of this one.
Yeah.
So George,
You know what?
you're okay
That's
working
not
at the
I was gonna say. she's
No, I
good
don't
on
like
the
realtors
computer.
Yeah.
I'm a
it's
hard,
fun.
yeah, I love it, man.
I have
And
more than a card.
my point when
Ah.
Tell me.
it when it comes to realtors, yeah, you can drop them.